It's Sunday, October 13th, 2024. Welcome to another edition of Montreal Hockey Talk. I am Costa Papoulias. First of all, let's say happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there celebrating in Canada. You know, Sunday, like me, should have been all about the family, and that's what it was, which is why we're posting this video so late. But at the end of the day, it was a great week for the Montreal Canadiens. We'll look at it, along with Lane Hutson and the discussion that's going on as far as what the Canadiens should do with what I think is going to be their all-star defenseman. Plus, Logan Mailloux. Did the Canadiens make a mistake sending him down? He thinks so. I think so too. And what's on deck for the Montreal Canadiens this coming week? It's time for Montreal Hockey Talk. So it's another Sunday, and it's time for us to talk. And as usual, I'm going to ask you guys to like, subscribe, and click the notifications bell here on YouTube to make sure that you get all the latest from Montreal Hockey Talk every time I post a new episode. And this week, it's very, very simple. It's week number 1 in the books for the Montreal Canadiens, and I think there are a bunch of people out there who said that Montreal, if they came out of this week with 3 out of 6 points, they would have been happy. Well, you know what, guys? Overall, the Canadiens come out of this week with 4 out of 6 points. You should be extremely happy, but there are some things that the Canadiens need to work on. That said, let's just look into the crux of it, starting with game number 1 on Wednesday versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. Canadiens come away with a 1-0 victory, which is fantastic because it's the Leafs after all, and nobody wants the Leafs to beat the Canadiens. Point final. But if you look at the game overall, there are a lot of things that you look at this game. Some are positive. Some of them are ultimately very negative. Starting with the fact that the Leafs hit 3 goalposts. No fault to Sam Montembeault whatsoever. He was spectacular in this game, getting his first shutout as a Montreal Canadien and becoming the first goaltender to get a shutout to start the season in who knows how long. So good on him. But it's still 3 goalposts, which means the Canadiens had 3 very heavy defensive breakdowns. So you can come away with it saying, okay, the Canadiens got the 2 points early on in the season. They beat the Leafs 1-0, but there are negatives. The fact that they hit 3 goalposts, that's one of them because this could have been a 3-1 game and it could have gone in a completely different direction. Let's look at a positive. The Canadiens' power play. They came out their first couple of power plays and they looked like gangbusters. There was movement. There was position change. There was cycling of the puck. Everything and anything that everybody wanted, including glorious scoring opportunities. And the one thing that we saw on this power play for the Habs that we haven't seen in the past is the use of the bumper more than once on the power play. The bumper, of course, being the position right in the middle of that 1-3-1 formation in the power play. In the past, the Canadiens didn't really use it all that often other than to really disrupt the goaltender. But now it looks like it's being used as a positive weapon on the power play. And whether it's Kirby Dach or Juraj Slafkovsky, who are taking those shots from that bumper position, they are getting quality scoring opportunities. Another positive, Brendan Gallagher scoring, man. He's got a couple of goals already this season. Oh my God, are we happy campers about that? Because nobody deserves success more than that guy. You know, 2 broken fingers. Let's say broken hands because his fingers were all messed up thanks to Shea Weber's slap shot. And everybody talking about how his game is gone. But if there's one thing that I've noticed about Gallagher, it's never a question about effort. But the happier this man is, the better he plays. So keep him happy. Sure, he's going to get his opportunities. He's on the second wave of the power play. It's something that they didn't give him last year. And it should have been there because Gallagher, after all, his office is in front of that net. He knows how to get in the goalie's kitchen. So yeah, leave him there on the second wave. It's 45 seconds of your time? Who cares? Leave him there. He got a goal in game 1. Perfect. Done. End of story. It was a game 1? No, sorry, it was game 2. But it was perfect. Leave him there. And even in game 1, he got so many chances in front. Leave him there. So it's great that he's on the second wave of the power play in front of the net. Mike Matheson started the power play on unit number 1 at the point. People started yammering about having Lane Hutson there. I will get to that later on in the show. But Lane Hutson, in and of himself, I mean, there's another positive to look at, whether it's game 1, game 2, or game 3. That man has energy to burn. He's shifty, but he still makes mistakes. And you know what? You got to take the positive with the negative, right? You know he's young. You know he's going to make mistakes. And if anybody knows anything about Lane Hutson, he's going to learn from those mistakes because he's attentive and he pays attention to detail. So let's call a spade a spade. He's going to get there. Not quite there yet, but he's going to get there. But overall, man, that kid is there's nothing to really say because I haven't seen that much energy from a player in the longest time. That kid brings people out of their seats the same way Guy Lafleur used to back in the 70s and 80s when he would skate down the right wing with the puck. And after Guy, Mats Naslund, anytime Mats Naslund used to penetrate the zone and come in with the puck on his stick, everybody stood up because you knew something was going to happen. And that's the same sense that everybody gets from Lane Hutson. So that's another positive. But overall, the biggest problem with game number 1 was the 48 shots allowed by the Canadiens. You can't allow that much against the Toronto Maple Leafs because you know what? It's 48 shots that Montreal managed to stop in game 1. Is he going to be able to stop 48 shots in game number 2? It remains to be seen, but percentage-wise, I don't think that's going to be the case. So you have to tighten up that defense against teams like Toronto because, after all, Toronto, the majority of their shots came from the outside. They really didn't get a ton of quality shots in open areas, but when they did, they made them count. And they were saves that Montreal had to make, and he looked good because of it. But again, those 3 goalposts, they came from those danger areas that you don't want teams to get shots from. So that has to get tightened up a little bit by the Montreal Canadiens. And I think the way Marty's been working on his defensive zone coverage so far this season, that's going to come. I'm extremely positive. One of the things that was really negative for me, and I thought I was going to see better because of the power play gave me the impression right off the cuff that it was going to do something special on that first night. And it did. It produced a goal. But the 5-on-3 power play the Canadiens got was just as putrid as it was the year before. And the reason why isn't because there was no effort or because, they don't have the proper guys on the ice. That's not the case. The problem is that the 5-on-3 power play for the Montreal Canadiens needs to learn to contract the inverted triangle before they expand and try to take shots from the blue line. And what I mean by that is you see that inverted triangle where you've got one guy high at the point and then you've got 2 guys down low to try to cover as much area as they can in front of the goaltender, right? And it kind of turns side to side where the guy at the tip of that inverted triangle, they move back and forth, right? So now, in that vein, you need to be able to compress that inverted triangle in order to create opportunities. So what does that mean? It means the puck goes from high to low, and you've got a 5-on-3 advantage already. So you know you're going to be able to do that. But the question is, get your players in the proper position to move the puck quickly. Okay? And the trick about the 5-on-3 isn't necessarily that you use the same formation as your 5-on-4 because the 1-3-1 against an inverted triangle doesn't work. Because the inverted triangle, it closes that area in the slot more than anything else. So you've got to try to create from the outside. In order to do that, you've got to get one guy in front of the net to wreak havoc with the goaltender and draw the defenseman's attention over. And then you got to make sure that the other 4 guys are moving the puck relatively quickly in order to open up shooting lanes. The Canadiens didn't do that. They stayed to the outside, and basically what you had was this at the point where you had Matheson on the point, and you had the 2 shooters on the outside, and the puck was going between them but never came lower. There's got to be a point where that puck gets down below the goal line, and either it gets back up high quickly with a couple of quick passes, or it moves behind the net to the other side, and then it comes back up. It can't be back and forth up top on the blue line because then you're making the defense's job very easy. And the minute that shot comes in from the blue line, all they do is they collapse the whole triangle in on the net, and what do you get? 0 scoring opportunities. You'll either get the goaltender controlling the rebound and smothering it, or you're going to have a little bit of a scrum in front of the net, and nothing's going to come of it. So the Canadiens need to work on being able to get the puck low and back up high in order to get that 5-on-3 power play to work. But overall, I was extremely happy with what happened in Game 1. Game 2, whole different story. And just so you know, guys, I am still fighting a cold, so I apologize when I turn off the mic and I cough. But game 2 was a completely different story. I thought the Canadiens came out a little flat. Now, granted, it's a second game in 2 nights, and it's against the Boston Bruins. Did I expect the Canadiens to win that game? No, I didn't. And not because it was the Canadiens versus Boston, or I thought Boston was going to be that much better. But Boston got their asses whipped the night before. So you know they're going to come out in front of their home crowd after they get introduced and put out a better effort. And they did just that. Don't let the score fool you, because at one point in this hockey game, it was 5-2. And the Canadiens were behind by 3 goals. They did manage to make a hockey game of it. You know, they got it to 5-4, and then we had the empty netter go in. Okay, it's done. Whatever it is, okay? I think there was an empty netter there, wasn't there? Hang on. Let me look at these stats. Oops. Wrong one. And blah, blah, blah. Where's the goals? No, it was scored at even strength. There was no empty netter. So they managed to get it to 5-4 and then 6-4. And I apologize for not seeing that, because I was working a Hawks game and doing play-by-play while I was watching this hockey game. So my bad. I was double dipping. But anyway. But, you know, they got it to 5-4. It was made 6-4 with 4 minutes left in the game. That was pretty much all she wrote. And it's not for lack of effort from the Canadiens. But there was one thing that came up after that loss, that same night after I got home. I was watching Tony Marinaro's podcast, the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Tony. I've been friends with Tony a long time. You know, he's a great person. You know, he'll give the shirt off his back if he can. And he was having a discussion with PJ Stock, another guy that I know quite well because we coached together here in St. Lazare. And I got to tell you, PJ was all over the Canadiens because he always is. He's a Bruins fan through and through, and nobody expects any different. But during that broadcast, Tony asked PJ to pull out a notepad and say that he was, you know, write down October 10th, 2024, I'm done with Caden Primo. Now, like I said, I love Tony. And it's okay to say that, but if you mean it, T, you got to do something different, man. Because, you know, Caden Primo last season was put in the most impossible situation known to man. And then he comes into a back-to-back where his team doesn't have the same legs it should on a regular game. And, you know, it's a 6-4 win for the Boston Bruins. He wasn't good. I'll give him, granted, I'll give him that. There were a couple of bananas, like you say, that he let in. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not going to write off Caden Primo after a single hockey game, because after all, his numbers were better than Montembeault's last season. Okay, better save percentage, better goals against. I'm waiting to see this kid turn around and make himself known as a very good goaltender with the Montreal Canadiens. He's got a season and a half to do it before, you know, the Canadiens even decide to bring up Jacob Fowler or do whatever they want with Jacob Fowler, because he's going to be in the AHL next year, almost guaranteed. So he's going to go from college this year to the AHL next year, and then most likely to the Montreal Canadiens. But Primo's got that window now of 18 months where he's got to show what he's capable of in order to continue his career in the National Hockey League. I don't think he's a career AHL goaltender. I think he's a better goaltender than Jake Allen is right now at Jake's point in his career. And I think Primo, given his size, can be a better goaltender, but he just has to believe in himself. And I think that belief will come with a team that plays better defensively in front of him. The Canadiens did not have a very good defensive game against the Boston Bruins. There were a lot of things they did wrong in that game. And I mean, as I look at the stats, they only allowed, 29 shots on goal. But a lot of those shots were from Primo territory. You know, if you look at the heat map, I mean, the Bruins got shot after shot after shot from good areas. So, let's take a step back with Primo and not write him off just yet. I want to see more from him. I want to see him play a couple more games at least early on in this season, and not in a back-to-back. I want you to give him a game or two, when he's not covering for Montembeault back-to-back, because then Monty's going to get burned out. I would have thought for sure that, this game on Monday would have been perfect for him against the Pittsburgh Penguins, because the Penguins, they're struggling. That goes without saying, and I'll talk a little bit about that further down the line. But, I want to write off Thursday's game because it was the first of a back-to-back. And, yeah, you're going to say it's early in the season. It's not an excuse. Sorry, guys. The Toronto game took a lot of energy from the Montreal Canadiens, as it should, because Toronto's a very good skating team. They're very fast and they're very quick in transition. So for you to say that it doesn't matter, it does. Because as a former player myself, inside of 24 hours, you do not have maximal energy. So, give them a little bit of a break. They only had 24 shots on goal against Boston. You're not going to beat the Boston Bruins with 24 shots on goal. Granted, they did score 4 times, which is great, but 24 shots isn't going to cut the mustard. You need at least an average of 30 to 35 shots per game to be able to be successful in this league. 24, not even close. And to say that the Bruins did something different, they didn't. But they capitalized on the fact that they had 29 shots on goal, and a lot of them, like I said, coming from quality areas. And then we get to Sunday's game. And Sunday's game versus the Ottawa Senators, or Saturday's game, against the Ottawa Senators, everybody was like, oh yeah, Ottawa's going to kick Montreal's ass because look what they did to the Panthers. Okay. Again, we're going to get back to that back-to-back situation, which the Panthers were in when they played the Ottawa Senators. Guess what, guys? The Panthers didn't have the same energy they did when they beat the Bruins. So what happened? They end up losing to the Ottawa Senators. Roll forward a couple of days, and what happens? The Senators come back to earth against a fresh Montreal Canadiens team and a Sam Multiple that was ready to play a second game and didn't allow a goal until the third period. So what's there to say, right? Canadians come out, Lane Hutson doing his thing. You got to love that kid. It looks like he plays with ants in his pants. He gets a couple of assists in that game, looking fantastic once again. And Montreal comes away with a 4-1 win. Cole Caulfield with a pair of goals. He's got 3 on the season so far. Great on him, because you love to see Cole Caulfield score. Is it 3? Hang on. No, it's 4. Sorry. He's got 4 goals on the season because he did score against Boston. So, 4 goals in 3 games for Cole Caulfield. 4 points in 3 games for Lane Hutson. And the Canadians are off and running. And again, you look at the shot totals, okay? 26 for Montreal, 25 for the Ottawa Senators. So it wasn't a really busy night for Monty. The Canadians did a great job defensively in their own zone, and that's what you want to see. The lone goal against Montembeault was a perfect shot by Tim Stützle over his right shoulder. So, can't blame the goaltender for that, especially after he had stopped, what is it at that point? 64 shots in a row. Oh, no, more than that. I think it was more along the lines of 65 or 66 shots in a row before Stützle put it home. So, give the guy a break, right? And I've been critical of Montembeault, his style of goaltending, but he's stopping pucks, and you got to give him credit for it. I do think he's got flaws in his game, but I think after all, he's going to be our starting goaltender for the foreseeable future until, Caden Primo can wake up a little bit, I think, or he'll keep that job. But we know that Montreal's weakness is between the pipes, right? We can all agree on that. And so the better Monty plays and the more confidence Primo plays with, the better the team's going to be moving forward. So to say that this week was successful, absolutely. To say it was perfect, no. There are things the Montreal Canadiens still need to work on, that 5-on-3 power play, like I said, but the 5-on-4 power play, even though they're only running at 20%, if you take a look at the chances they've gotten on that power play, they've been quality. And those quality chances, it's going to even out. And you're going to see more and more pucks going in as the team progresses. The one thing that needs to change going into this week, if you're going to run that power play and you're going to have success, you need Juraj Slafkovsky to stop looking to distribute the puck and shoot. There was one point, I think it was in the Toronto game, where Slafkovsky got the puck in the slot on a stick and he was like, "Ooh, what happened?" And he let go of the weakest shot I think I've ever seen him shoot, because he wasn't expecting it. Sure, he got the assist on Caulfield's first goal of the season, and he's got points so far this season. I think he's got 3 or 4, is it? Okay, I've got 1, 2, 3 points so far in 3 games for Slafkovsky. So he's getting his numbers. He's getting his points, and that's great. If he was getting nothing, it'd be a problem. But he's counting on the other guys to score. He needs to let the shot rip. He's got an NHL shot. He's got a heavy NHL shot. Let it fly. You're going to score goals, kid. Just be confident with what you have and your God-given talents. You're going to be just fine. So this week, thumbs up from me for the Montreal Canadiens. And we'll preview next week a little bit further on in the show. Now, Let's talk about the subject that everybody's talking about, and that's Lane Hutson being promoted to the first power play unit. Yay or nay? I think 99% of people out there think because of how he plays and how shifty he is, yes, put him out there. Guys, I'm not ready to do that yet. And he's got 5 NHL games under his belt, right? And he's shown a lot of fantastic plays. He's shown a lot of ability, but he's also shown a lack of situational awareness that could be troublesome if he continues down the same path. And what I mean by that is there are certain points in time where he takes shots towards the net when he's got other guys in front of him instead of distributing the puck. And by the same token, sometimes he has shooting lanes that he doesn't take in order to distribute the puck. When you're asking somebody to quarterback the power play, those decisions need to be cut and dry. They need to be clear. And you can't really say that about Lane Hutson just yet because of the fact that he's still so young and he's not used to the way the Canadiens play on the power play. The Canadiens aren't used to the way they play on the power play, right? So you're going to have to wait a little bit for that first unit to actually get its bearings so that you can have Lane look at what the first unit does and adapt to that. Because, there are times where you see Matheson take shots from the point, and the shots do get through. Lane Hutson takes shots on the second unit, and they don't get through because there's a lot of pressure coming on him because they know the focal point of the power play is going to be Lane Hutson. That's second unit. Could you imagine first unit where you've got the best penalty killers up against him? It'll be the same, if not worse for him because of the amount of puck pressure. So I don't want to see him get put into a situation where he's going to fail. I want to see him get into a situation where he's going to develop. And that's where he is right now, guys. Okay? Lane Hutson is the answer moving forward. There's no doubt in my mind. But he is also very young, new to the NHL, and needs to get used to the speed of the game. Right? The speed of the game is something that people take for granted. Right? You see it on TV and you think, oh my God, you should be able to do it. You should be able to do it. But when you're going from college to the NHL directly, right? Then there's no AHL in between. There's a learning gap there, right? There's a certain speed to the game that you need to get used to. You take a look at Logan Mailloux, who I'm going to talk about in a second. When he was in the exhibition games this year, he looked out of place. He looked like he was a little slow. And whether or not that's because of lack of effort or because of an assumption, it's hard to say. But I thought that, maybe Lane Hutson should have gotten a little bit more time, maybe even last year. I don't know. It's hard to say because I think Hutson can keep up with the game. That goes without saying, right? I'm not Corey Pronman saying, okay, yeah, he's too slow. He's not. He's an elite skater. His ability to be elusive is beyond reproach. Okay, and stick handling wise, he knows where to go with the puck. He knows which way to bob and weave. You look at what he did to Brady Tkachuk on Saturday and how stupid Tkachuk was trying to look in front of the net. The kid's got it, okay? But the fact that he's got it doesn't mean that he's going to keep it. And what I mean by that is he needs to be able to progress. He needs to be able to learn at a pace that's going to be good for him and good for the hockey club. And throwing him onto the first unit a week into the season is not the right answer, guys. We've done this before a million times. I don't care if it's Mike Ribeiro or Guillaume Latendresse or you name the rookie that we took and we threw him into a situation to make him look like the answer to everything with this team. I don't want to see that from Lane Hutson. This kid, if he continues on the pace that he's at right now, is going to win the Calder Trophy. Bar none, okay? The kid in 5 NHL games, career, he's got 6 points, right? They're all assists, but he's got 6 points. That's more than a lot of rookies can say, right? And it's only going to continue based on the way he's been playing and the way he's going to continue to play. But game after game after game, the thing that you do with a defenseman as young as Lane Hutson is you show him what he does right and you show him a little bit of what he does wrong. The shots, there was a shot at one point, and I forget who it was, so please forgive me because I don't have the replay in front of me. But he was at the blue line, and he took a shot, and it almost turned into a breakaway going the other way because he was the last man back. And he decided to shoot the puck There was nobody behind him to cover, and it went off shin guards and back the other way. And luckily, I believe it was Newhook that came back to cover for him because he was on that same strong side of the puck. So, but there's going to be a time where he's going to try that shot and nobody's going to be there to cover, or nobody's going to be fast enough to cover, and the Canadians are going to be in trouble. So you want to get away from those habits, and you want to teach them, okay, take another step to the right, left, and just shoot the puck. If you think you have a lane, but you can't see it, shift and shoot, okay? And it's going to come. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind that this kid has the intelligence to do it, right? To do it all. I don't. But I don't want it done tomorrow. I want this kid to develop and have confidence in himself. Not lose it because we're putting him too much pressure on him right out of the gate. All right? We didn't do that with Caden Gooley. Now, granted, Gooley did get injured a little bit, but he came in from the Edmonton Oil Kings, and everybody was like, Gooley's going to be, he's good enough to be a number one defenseman. And is he? Yes. But is he there yet? No. And it's his third NHL season. So why, are you doing that, not doing it to Gooley, but you want to do it to a kid like Hutson? I get it. Hudson's offensive side is off the charts fucking good. But defensively, there's still holes in his game. And those needs to be corrected before you put him in a situation where he may make a mistake that costs his team defensively. He doesn't want that. Nobody wants that. So stop trying to push him forward too quick. He's going to get there. And I'm not going to say it's going to take 10 years to get there. Give him 20 games in the National Hockey League to get acclimatized to the speed and how teams play before you put him in a situation that he's never seen before. Nobody's going to succeed when you put them in a situation they don't understand or they're not used to. I mean, how many times have you tried to do something and you were given... Take an IKEA fucking bookcase, for example, and tell me you did it without looking. Bullshit. So let the kid look. Let him read the instructions. Let him figure out what's going on in front of him, and then let him succeed. Don't push it too quickly, because if you do, you're going to lose all the good that kid can bring to the table because you're going to destroy his confidence. So pull back on the reins a little bit, Montreal. Let the kid develop. Let him learn. And I'm telling you, 20 games in, I'm not going to have an argument. Right? 20 games in, he's going to be ready to go. He's going to be used to it. No issue. Don't push him, though. Because if you push him, it's going to hurt him long term. Now, the next subject I wanted to approach was whether or not the Montreal Canadiens made a mistake in keeping Justin Barron over Logan Mailloux. 3 games in, Justin Barron offensively has been he's been very good for the Montreal Canadiens, and we know that he can bring it when it comes to offense. Defensively, I'm at a loss because the other night against Boston, he was on the ice for, what was it, 3 or 4? I think it was 3 out of the 6 Boston goals. Okay. You can't continue to make the same mistake with Justin Barron. Justin Barron is a good defenseman. He's not great. And he's not at the level of a Jaden Struble. And he's not at the level of a Logan Mailloux as far as I'm concerned. Okay, defensively, Logan Mailloux is much better in his own zone than Jaden Struble. Than Jordan Harris. Well, Jordan Harris, where did I come up with that? Justin Barron. Jesus. Losing my mind here with too many defensemen on the brain. But like I said, I think Logan Mailloux is better defensively than Jordan Harris. And the reason I say that is because Mailloux doesn't make the same mistakes in his own zone when it comes to protecting the puck and making sure he makes the right read to get the puck out. Barron's biggest problem is fear. And I've said that from the very beginning. He has no confidence in his own zone when he's being pressured and he has the puck. So he does one of two things. Either he reverses it to an unwilling partner, or he gives it up as he tries to clear because he doesn't give himself enough time and space. And he's not the only one. There are other defensemen that do the same thing across the National Hockey League. But the thing about defensemen is that they make the mistake of taking their time coming back and retrieving pucks. And you need to be just as quick retrieving the puck as you are getting it out. That's the defenseman's job. The minute that puck is outside your blue line, then you can cruise. Then you could go up there and contribute offensively. But if it's inside your own line, your responsibility, first and foremost, is to make the right read and get the puck out. And to make sure that you also protect yourself and your partner while you're on the ice. Justin Barron doesn't do that. Justin Barron goes in nonchalant. He doesn't look over his shoulder. He does only when he gets to the puck. And when you do that, you don't give yourself enough time because you're slowing down to get there, right? Because the puck is on the boards after all. So you're slowing down to get there. And then what happens? You turn around and there's this guy coming right after you. He's either going to hit you or he's going to come in and try to take the puck away, and you're not ready and you don't have an idea what you want to do. But if you get in there quickly enough and you give yourself enough time to read the zone and turn your head and take a look, then you're going to be successful. And Barron needs to learn that. You know, a guy like Stéphane Robida, who was a master at doing this because he was a smaller defenseman in a league with bigger guys at the time, right, on the blue line, he was really that type of guy who would get in there quick because he knew he needed to be in there quick, and he would take a quick look and move the puck. Another guy who used to do that a little bit bigger than he was Stéphane Quintal. If you watch Stéphane Quintal always had his head on a swivel, always looked, always made sure of the read he was making. Eric Desjardins, another fine example of a guy smaller in stature, but was just as quick as looking to see what was going on and making the right read with the puck as it was coming out of his own zone. Barron's not there. And I think he needs a little bit of a time at the American Hockey League level to get used to reading where the puck needs to go. And he's got the two-way contract. Yes, he's going to go on waivers, and sure, maybe somebody will grab him. Or just keep him on the roster. You know, keep him on the roster. And send down a Heineman or send down whatever. Somebody who's not waiver eligible. Just for a game or two. And see the difference between him and Logan Mailloux. I know Mailloux just the other day. He played his first game, 2 goals, 2 assists. And sure, it's the American Hockey League, whatever. But he came out afterwards and said, I think the Montreal Canadiens made a mistake sending me down. Does that remind you of anybody? I seem to remember a former Montreal Canadiens captain who did the same thing, right? When it was talked about him going down to the American Hockey League, and that was Max Pacioretty, right? Patches did not want to go down. He wanted to be at the NHL level, and he made it known to everybody in the public. Was he the same when he became captain? No, he wasn't as clear in what he wanted, but at that point in time in his career, he had absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain. He said his piece, and at the time his coach was Jacques Martin. Jacques Martin heard him, brought him up, put your money where your mouth is. Pacioretty delivered, and the rest is history. Do the same for Logan Mailloux. If that kid came out and called out the organization on their decision, then there's 2 things that they should do. Either 1, you get rid of him because he pissed you off, or 2, you reward him for being honest in his way of thinking and his passion for what he wants to do with his career, and you let him prove it at the NHL level. And that's what I want to see, because I really think Logan Mailloux can be a bottom 3 defenseman, right? I think he could be a 4, 5, or 6. I think he has that talent. And right now, as it stands, he would be your 6. You were right beside either Ivor Xhekaj or Jaden Struble when he gets back to 100%. So give the kid a chance at the NHL level. Bring him back up. Send down one of your forwards. Give him a game or 2. Let him show you what he wants you to see. Because nobody, and this is something that, you know, a lot of rookies and kids that think, oh yeah, I deserve to be here. And that's probably what happened with Mailloux. He probably thought, yeah, I did so well last year in the American Hockey League. And he did, that there's no way they're going to send me down. So he took it easy during the preseason so he wouldn't get hurt. And what happened? It hurt him. Not from the physical sense, but from the positional sense in the organizational chart, depth chart. So now you woke him up a little bit. And that's what you wanted to do when you sent him down to the Rocket, after all, isn't it? You wanted to wake him up. You wanted him to get his attention. And you wanted him to want it. The kid wants it. So I want success for both of them. I want to see Justin Barron do well. I want to see Logan Mailloux do well. But one of them has to stand out. You've given the chance to Justin Barron in 3 games, and he has not been great defensively. He has contributed offensively from, creating offense. But Logan Mailloux could do both. Let him show you. If he can't, you send him back down to the American Hockey League. You say, I tried. You didn't do what we wanted you to do. Now's your chance to work on your game at the American Hockey League level. There it is. So I said from the very beginning, I didn't want the Montreal Canadiens to come into camp with, 14 forwards? I wanted to go 13 and keep the extra defenseman because I didn't think it was sure who the defenseman would be. I did say that, Arbor Jackeye should have been back down to the American Hockey League for his antics. But he proved me wrong in game one when he went after Ryan Reeves. Reeves backed off. So did he. So he honored the code. Everything was fine. And by the way, for all of you out there who are saying, oh, well, Arbor Jackeye shouldn't have worn the fuck you shirt. Let me tell you something. There's a certain MMA fighter by the name of Conor McGregor who wore the same suit or the same lettering on the suit to a Floyd Mayweather press conference. So, is it a big deal? I don't think so. The organization doesn't think so because they didn't reprimand him for it. But they should pull him aside and say, listen, Arbor, you're a Montreal Canadien. You're not a Boston Bruin. You're not a Philadelphia Flyer. You're a Hab. We don't conduct ourselves that way. You want to send a message? Do it on the ice. I think that's the only problem with that. I don't have a huge issue with it, but given his antics in the preseason, he didn't need to draw this extra attention to himself wearing that suit. Okay, so have a little bit of tact. You are playing for the most storied franchise in the National Hockey League. Respect the logo and don't wear that kind of shit to the arena. Please, because we deserve better. Every Hab in history deserves better. And you represent them when you put that jersey on. Now, let's take a look at the week coming up for the Montreal Canadiens. It's going to be a tough one. Yes and no. They start Monday, and another first for the Montreal Canadiens. They will be the guinea pig for the first broadcast on Prime Video. So I'm anxious to see that and what that broadcast is going to look like, because after all, when Amazon does something, they do it big. So I want to see what happens, and I want to see what that looked like. So I'm very anxious to see it. And that's coming up on Monday at 7:30. So Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, and the Pittsburgh Penguins in Montreal. The Penguins right now, as of this moment, are 1-2-0 on the season. So they're going to be looking to get a win. And Montreal is always a place where they come in and they play well. Okay, it doesn't matter who they have on their roster. But the Canadiens are a different team than they were. We all know that offensively, they can bring in a little bit more than they did in the past. And they've had contributions from everybody up front on their top six. So I'm anxious to see what this game is going to look like. I honestly think that Montreal is really going to bring it to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I foresee that being another Montreal Canadiens victory. Then you get the LA Kings, who are undefeated thus far this season with a 1-0-1 record. They come in on the 17th, which is Thursday at 7 p.m. The thing about that game is the LA Kings are always a tough out, but they too aren't the same team as they were because they're missing their quarterback on the back end, and that's Drew Doughty. The thing, though, with the Kings is that Anze Kopitar tends to burn us every time they come to play in Montreal. Thanks a lot, because we didn't pick him, and they took Carey Price instead in 2005. I get it. But, this getting burned by guys that weren't picked, I mean, that has to stop at a certain point, doesn't it? Because it has been almost 19 years since that draft, right? And I think the Canadiens, again, playing at home in front of their home crowd, they should take it to the Kings, because the Kings aren't as strong a team as we would have expected this year, minus Drew Doughty. Drew Doughty is the catalyst for everything on that team. So I'm hoping that Montreal is going to get 4 points out of those two games to start the week. And then the throwaway game, as I put it, because there's always one every week, would be on Saturday against the Islanders. They're playing on the island, and the Canadiens do not have any success there. I mean, they never play well on the island. So, and I'm sure my friend Paul Cuthbert's going to be looking at the show going, yeah, the boy, coach, you tell him. No, they don't. Whether they're playing the Rangers in New York or whether they're playing on the island, the Canadiens always seem to have trouble in that area. Not so much in New Jersey. They do have a little bit of a better record in New Jersey, but when it comes to playing in New York, oh my God, I don't know what it is. It's probably like teams that come into Montreal and they party a little bit too much. I think going to New York, they do the same thing. So I can't say yes or no. I can't confirm that, but I'd like to see the Canadiens sweep the week. I don't think it's going to happen, though. I think they're going to drop one out of these 3 games. I think it's going to be the one on Saturday against the Islanders because travel is always difficult. I know it's not that far. It's a short little flight or a short little bus ride, whichever way they want to go. But, 2 home games, one against Pittsburgh, one against the LA Kings. The Kings are traveling. I could see the Kings dropping that game. The Pittsburgh, they're looking to get back to 500. I don't know, but I do think the Canadiens are a better team than the Pittsburgh Penguins. They got better goaltending. They've got better offense, despite the fact that Sidney Crosby is still with the Penguins. I mean, that's the way I look at it. And when I look at the Islanders, I look at it, I see a team that's hungry to win, right? And that's the scary part about the Islanders is they're hungry to win. And that fan base supports that team. I mean, kudos to the Islanders fans because I've been to a couple of games on the island, and by and large,